All right, good evening. Welcome to tonight's 1776 Sons of Liberty weekly meeting. Tonight's meeting will be at Town Hall with a special guest, Doug Verboon. We're going to be talking about the water ordinance that the Board of Supervisors has recently passed. If you're watching on the live stream and we can get to your question, go ahead and pose a question and we'll see if it's appropriate. We'll get to it and we'll ask Doug about it. Before we get started, what we'll do is a prayer. We're going to open our meeting with a prayer like we do all our meetings. If you guys will please stand and remove your hats. And we have Joseph here. Joseph Darpley will get us going with a prayer.
Father, as always, we thank you for Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, for the salvation you offer the world through him. Lord, in our pledge, we make the statement that we're one nation under God, but our current administration, Lord, hasn't submitted to be under the Ten Commandments, nor under the teachings of Christ our Savior. So we pray, Lord, that you'll move upon the citizens, whether they be Republicans or Democrats. Convict our hearts and our minds, Lord, to know that we must honor you by obeying you. Help us understand that our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution, Bill of Rights and Amendments all came from you. You put it in the hearts of our founding fathers. And Lord, renew it. Renew these things, the Word of God in our hearts, so that we can be a witness and be light, that we all might vote. Help us to get out and do something, Lord, in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. If you remain standing, we'll do the flag salute. Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Doug, if you want to come up here, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to thank Doug for coming out and talking to us about these important issues. If you guys aren't familiar with Doug Verboon, he's the County Board of Supervisors. He's going to talk about the ordinance, a little history behind the ordinance, and this is kind of a two-part discussion. Last week we had a couple of guests out that gave us some basically history about the ordinance and moving water in California, and we got about an hour's worth of discussion in last week with a lot of relevant facts. So Doug is going to come out and clear some things up and provide us some information. After he's done speaking, when he's had his fill, then we'll go ahead and open up for question and answer. I just want to make sure that we had a big turnout for the Board of Supervisors vote. I think we probably had over a dozen and a half people there because it was an important issue. Some of us spoke, and we just want to make sure that all the stakeholders are represented, not just the GSAs, not just the farmers, but the citizens of Hanford, the citizens of Kings County, because that's everyone's water, and we want to make sure that everyone is accounted for as a stakeholder, not just water brokers. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate you coming out. Give me a hand.
Okay, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I really appreciate it. So I'll start with a little story in the backside. So in 2010, I ran for Board of Supervisors. And I ran on the fact that I wanted to stop the export of our groundwater. Groundwater being exported out of our county, and we're depleting our groundwater supply. So I had a couple articles in the Fresno Bee talking about, stopping the sale of our surface water and stopping the export of our groundwater. We had some of the growers that were not really farmers, but people on the west side that were selling their access to surface water, and they keep on pumping. And I felt there should be some kind of a rule that stopped that, because if you sell your surface water, all you do is pump your groundwater, pretty soon we're out of groundwater, then nobody has none. A good friend of mine called me up and says, "Doug, you got to knock it off, man." He says, "You got to keep that water flowing." And I said, "Yeah, but if you sell your surface water, all you do is take my groundwater, and the water used to go from north to south, now it's going, used to go east to west, now it's going north to south." So you know all that. So I stayed true to it. I got on the Board of Supervisors in 2011, and it took a while to get comfortable. And we had high-speed rail. We dealt with that every single day. And probably about 2 years into it, I read an article about Madera County had a Department of Water and Natural Resources. So the gal's name was Julie Berryhill, and she ran the Water and Natural Resources in Madera County. So I called her up and talked to her, how do they come about doing a new department in the county of Madera. So she came down to Kings County, and I had two large farmers in the room with my county staff. We talked about forming this Department of Water and Natural Resources with the County of Kings. And what she had told me is that they had a lot of landowners that came into Madera that were buying ground just to take water out of there. So they had to figure out a way to stop it. So they did a no export groundwater ordinance in Madera, probably about 2006, 7, or 8 in there. So we kind of followed her, see what she had to do. And I had these two growers in the room. They kind of got an argument about who's right, who's wrong. But at the end of the day, we all believed we needed to have something at the County of Kings. And at that time, Colleen Carlson was our county counsel. And Colleen was pretty much an expert in the water law. She worked with some of the larger growers down in Corcoran and in the west side. So she helped me kind of identify this. So we interviewed people, and we hired him to be our Water and Natural Resources Director. After about 2 weeks, he resigned. He said, you know, I don't want to promise something I can't deliver because I want to be able to move out of here with my kids someday. So we had to hire the next person in line, which her name was Julianne Phillips. So she came into the county and she worked for we were going to put her underneath community development. So we need a well permit. If you have any questions as a farmer or anybody, you can ask our professional. Because board members come and go. We don't always know everything. So you need to hire someone that goes to all the GSA meetings and understands the laws that are put in front of us. So Julie started, and she was going to all the GSA meetings, and it was going okay. But the board didn't want to work with her. Staff was fighting over where she went. She ended up starting off at county counsel's office. Our county counsel got sick and had to leave. So she came over to the administration office, had her own room. And it didn't really work out. We had to let her go. But she documented a lot of stuff. In that time, I brought to the Board of Supervisors, probably in about 2013, an idea to do a no export of groundwater ordinance. And it came up to the Board of Supervisors, and we were going to vote on it. And it turned into an argument. I had, Tony Barba was Craig Peterson's seat, Joe Downs, Richard Valley, and Richard Fagundes. And at that time, they said, well, you have to let it go to the Water Commission. And I said, all right, we'll have Julianne present it to the Water Commission. So we worked with Julianne for about a year. We went documented pictures. We had pictures of pipelines and water moving where it went out into the aqueduct. It was all groundwater. Brought it to the Water Commission. They were pissed. How dare you go that sacred ground? You have no right to be out there. And I said, hey, all we're trying to do is document what's going on. And maybe we should have a rule to stop the pumping from groundwater. You have no right to be out there. So the Water Commission refused to look at it. So fast forward to 2018, I brought it back up again. I had a law, I had an ordinance, I brought it up, same thing happened. Supervisor Nab, Supervisor Fagundes said, no, you need to go to the Water Commission. I said, oh, well, all right, we'll go to the Water Commission again. It was a 2-2 vote. Supervisor Peterson and myself voted for it. Fagundes and Nez voted against it. Supervisor Valley got sick, didn't make it that day. So that was probably about October, November of 2018, or 2019. So at this time, the GSAs are just now coming to light. And people are kind of panicking, like now we have to control our groundwater, we can't pump anymore. And everybody's blaming the guy by the name of John Vidovich. John Vidovich is the bad guy. So I called him up. I said, hey, why don't we meet? All right. So we met, we talked, and told him I wanted to know export groundwater ordinance. He said, you need to do that. I said, all right. I said, but you guys are fighting with Boswell. Let's have a meeting together, all of us together. So December 27th, 2019, I put Boswell, Vidovich, and all 5 GSAs in one room with our county council. Boswell and Vidovich got an argument and blamed all the groundwater exports on the Wonderful Corporation. They said, Stuart Rednick is the reason why we have no groundwater, because he's taking it all. I said, well, if that's the case, we're going to stop the meeting right now. And we're going to have Stuart Rednick come in here and sit down with us. And they thought for a minute. No, we get along. We'll be all right. So we discussed the no export groundwater ordinance. We discussed Sigma, how we can make this work. Because these are two powerhouses in the county right now. These guys are the ones that are making all the problems with all the people that are small, like myself. Well, followed up again about 2 months later with another meeting in the Tulare Lake Water Storage District room. And I took Supervisor Valley there at that time. And we discussed, this is too much groundwater leaving the county. And Boswell didn't want to talk about it. Vinovich wanted me to force it on him. But in everybody's eyes, it looked like Vinovich is the guy taking all the water out of the county. I mean, he owns Lake Canal and where the water is going. But anyway, we took a step back, and I went along, I don't know if it's right or not, but I have some people in the water world that went behind the backs of everybody, and they started talking to some of the growers in outlying areas and asked them if they would support my groundwater ordinance. And by themselves, they all supported it. But publicly, nobody wants to support it. So I just went ahead and did it. And I was surprised on November 2nd or whatever it was, we got it passed. So, I was surprised we had five in favor. Supervisor Ness, for goodness, both voted in favor of it. And it was great. Now we got an ordinance. And the reason why we need an ordinance, and one guy brought it up at the meeting when you guys came the last time. Is there someone taking water out of county? How do you know? Well, if there's no ordinance in place, county staff can't go investigate. County staff can't do nothing. They only do what the ordinance is written. And to sum it up real simple, years ago when California made medical marijuana legal, people will call me and say, hey, there's a guy growing marijuana in his backyard. You need to stop him. I send that ordinance to the sheriff, and the sheriff will say, I need an ordinance. He couldn't do anything with someone growing illegal marijuana because the county had no ordinance. So the first step you have to do is get some kind of ordinance. So our ordinance is in place. It will go into effect December 29th. There's a lot of things we need to work out on it. The enforcement, management, the penalties, all that kind of stuff. It's identified only so much we could do with the law, but we'll get there eventually. And it's a working document. One thing I wanted to remind everybody is when we put this ordinance in place, it was to help the farmers in Kings County. The groundwater below us is supposed to use above the ground that we have here today, and we can't be depleted in the future if we have nothing. The GSAs have the rule now to make sure that we all come in compliance in our own individual areas. Our ordinance doesn't hamper them. It just, we're a backstop. If they have someone in their community or their GSA that refuses to follow the orders, we can come in at that point and we can enforce the rules at that time. One thing that came up about the ordinance was, I heard last week that Russ Waymeyer's here and talked about 10 miles. We do a circle of 10 miles. You can pump water 10 miles. Well, you can't. That was a concession I had given. Supervisor Neves was the person I knew was going to be a problem on this ordinance because he fought me the whole time. I think about 2-3 miles outside of county line is okay. Joe went at 10. Don't understand it, but 10 miles is fine. And it's not 10 miles from county line. It's 10 miles from the point of extraction on property that's connected the whole way. You can't go from your property and jump over somebody else to another piece of your property. Your property has to be conjoined the whole time. And I don't believe that any of that property exists in Kings County or Tulare or Kern or in Fresno. You just can't move water 10 miles. 10 miles is here past Lemoore. And one person has to own all that ground before they can move that water. But it gives everybody the option to move water around in the GSAs as need be. And it's at a zero net loss to the county. So if you get a permit to move water out of the county, you have to replace it with surface water. You just don't get to move it. You got to replace it. And that's the same rule that Tulare County has in our ordinance as well. And it's hard. I'm a farmer. I farm 187 acres myself. My family used to farm on more ground. My family's been here since the 1800s. My great-grandfather on the Verboon side came here in 1906. I farmed the same ranch he worked on when he came to America. Farming is very important to me. I want to protect it, but all I got. Back when I was 8 years old, I was on Kansas and 12th Avenue, and my Uncle John farmed all of Bill Clark's ground. My Uncle John was a dairy farmer that had the first fully registered herd in the state of California. And I think in 69 or 70, he sold all his cows And he said, I'm done with cows. Well, the kid that was coming up, one of my uncles was partner with him and do this semen deal. And my uncle John said, I'll help you, but I don't want nothing to do with it. So Bill Clark would buy ground and my Uncle John would farm it for him. Well, I was out there in Kansas with 12 family one day, and he was jumping up and down hollering about this guy and put all these wells in. And Fred Salyers had come in and took wells from 10th and a half, probably to 12th Avenue, a well every quarter mile on virgin ground I've never farmed before. And started Salyer Water Company. Started taking water from the north side of the south side of Kansas and take it down to the Lakeline, the area of it. So now the small farmers like my uncle had to keep up with a big powerhouse like Salyers and keep up with the wells that were taking water. Those wells are still running today, taking water out here. So it's a good area to take water from, but it doesn't help the area that it's in. So that was one of my goals when I was a little kid, to do something about it. And here I am in a position of power where I can get something done. So I got the water ordinance in place. The water ordinance in place today, we copied it from Shasta County. Shasta and Calusi have the same problems. Some of the same people we have problems with here today were buying ground in Shasta County just to pump the water in the Sacramento River to take it out to LA. So they had to put something in place to stop them too. And it's big money. It's not your farmer. It's investment groups. If you look at the landowners, there any kind of water or anywhere where you can position yourself to move water into the aqueduct, it's all investment groups. We have Harvard University here in the Second Valley past Kelvin farming today. Harvard should be here promoting what to do, but they're not. They're depleting our environment, they're depleting our groundwater, and that's just wrong. And it hurts the people that live here and farm for a living. And that was my goal, and I think we're there today. And like I said, it's a working document. It'll change over time. And, we want to make sure we promote agriculture at all costs. So, if you guys have any questions, I'm here.
I'll grab the mic, Doug. I do want to hit on one thing that you didn't hit on today, but you did hit on during the meeting, was that at the current rate of production, you would make more money probably selling water than you would farming, and that was a big point that hit home.
So surface water is a different story, and it's tied to groundwater. So I'll bring my family into it. It's kind of embarrassing, but so in 1957 they built Pine Flat Reservoir. Every member that had farm ground or ground in the King River service area was given an acre-foot of water for every acre they owned. My family's right there with them. And my grandfather always said, don't ever get rid of that water. And he had 180 acre feet. So my grandfather died in 1999, and my grandmother died in 2013. And I had a long-term lease to farm my grandmother's ranch from 2006 till 2026. And in the estate, and when someone dies, people get a little greedy. So we were dividing the estate up, and I had right to farm the ground, and I had first right of refusal to buy the ground from the estate. And the water was left out of the trust. And it was transferred into my parents' name. And I said, oh, I'm not buying anybody's ground until I have the water. No, you have to trust me. I said, no, I want it in writing. And at that time, the water was worth $430,000. That was in 2012. And in 2019, December 23rd, I got a text from my dad demanding I pay him $1.1 million for the water. I had 30 days to come up with the money. And that's what it does to people. It makes them greedy. And without that water, I can't farm. And it's not groundwater, this is surface water. So I'm buying $6,000 an acre foot. I'm paying for my water to have access for it when it snows. And you have to have it. And especially with Sigma, you have to have that today. So now, a small grower that farms 187 acres is competing against someone that has 150,000 acres. So once I acquired this water, I got offered double for it within a 24-hour period. And I got offered someone to buy my whole ranch. So I like to farm. Well, I used to up till this year. But it puts greed in people's pockets, and I want to take that temptation away. 2018, Supervisor Peterson and myself were invited to the White House, and we got to meet President Trump. And Supervisor Peterson stood up and talked about being a third-generation farmer and having to sell his farm and not having a fourth-generation Peterson family farm it because the lack of availability in the future to have water. He was in a last chance irrigation district, which means last chance, you don't get water very often. And he wouldn't have survived if he had to, pump water out of the ground. He didn't have a team of lawyers. He didn't have a bunch of people working for him because you got to farm the system. And he didn't have that access. A larger farmer can do that because they can idle some ground over here and offset some of the pumping costs. He couldn't do it. So when I got to talk to the president, I took the microphone and I said, listen, the value of water has increased so much that they pay to use it for farming. We need to take that temptation away from the farmers today, or we will have nothing left. If I had an opportunity, or I had no morals, I would sell my water and move on and go live someplace else. But I haven't done that yet. And I want to protect the rights of the citizens of Kings County to make sure they have the same access to farming as I did when I was growing up. And if I sell my water, I'm just as bad as the other guys that are selling their groundwater out of the county, and we got to stop that.
Do you feel that people are selling their surface water and then irrigating with groundwater and kind of double dipping into their allocation, kind of?
So, not all farmers are bad that are doing that, but it puts them in a bad position. So, in 1963, President Kennedy dedicated the ground for San Luis Reservoir. All the farming on the west side, probably Highway 41 to Interstate 5, was just, virgin ground. That all got developed with access to San Luis Reservoir. They built empires out there. Western Water District came in. They managed the water. People owned water rights up there. And in 1985, there was a meeting in Monterey called the Monterey Agreement. And a gentleman by the name of Timothy Quinn, which was a Metropolitan Irrigation District manager, and Stuart Redneck, which was a friend, I think it was Governor Gray Davis, had just given him the Kern County water banks. And a few other players in the room. I think Congressman Cal Dooley might have been involved in that too. And they started taking water away from the farmers at that time. In 1992, I think it was 92 or 91, Cal Dooley voted to take water out of San Luis Reservoir and give it to the Metropolitan Irrigation District, which just about killed access to farmers. So since that day, they've lost water every day. And so the farmers that have access to water, they're paying $400 or $300 an acre foot for water all day long, and they have to pay that whether they get the water or not. So in 2008, they started selling it. I mean, it was a couple of $76, $80 million sales on the west side, and they lost their water, but they kept farming. So now, when they did have water, they weren't using it, and now they never have water, so they're not going to use it. And they're being desperate to try to survive. And it's a shame because the government should be there to let us. That reservoir was built just for the farmers, and it doesn't belong to the farmers anymore. I was on a conference call with Karen Ross on Wednesday, and Jerry Brown, not the Jerry Brown, the other Jerry Brown, he's in charge of the Site Reservoir Project. Talk about how great it is. It's the same type of project. You take water out of the Sacramento River, put it in the reservoir, pull it down there, used for farmers. And someone asked, hey, where does Southern California start and where does it end? Because they think Southern California starts with Shasta, and we don't have a say in anything. So, the farmers that own that water right, it's a shame that they lost it, but at the same time, as a government elected official, I have to protect the future of the county. And I can't sit down and watch them take all the water out of here. Because now the infrastructure has been put in place. This infrastructure was put in place to de-water the Sawyer Lake Basin. Now, there's no water coming in, so they've connected it all. They go clear up into Tixley, and it all hooks to one pumping station out by Utica Avenue, and the water goes underground with this tractor. And it goes out. There's 2 5-foot pipelines on the wonderful property that take water out of here every day, and we have no control over it. So yeah, the water value is up there, and it's hard to imagine because anybody that farms near Hanford, we just mind our own business. We can't move water no more. I can't push water half mile my pipeline up, blow my pipeline out. And these guys got power and money, and they have the people that can do it for them. So it's going to be a big fight.
Can you? I'll get you right now. Can you just? I understand that we have about 5 aquifers under Kings County, and they're controlled by certain GSAs. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so, in those GSAs, they're controlled by boards who have different interests in that water, right?
Yes.
On those boards, is there any entities from the county or the city of Hanford, the city of Lemoore, the city of Avenel, whose water is within those aquifers? Do the local governments have a say? I understand that usually the GSAs are the farmers or the irrigation districts, but my point is, is the cities involved and have any say on what happens with with those aquifers?
So, Assembly Member Dickinson started the Sigma deal back in 2016, I believe, and the bill passed. So at that time, the state government gave an opportunity to the people in counties to form a sub-basin. And in that sub-basin, they can form their GSAs. And in that GSA, members that live in that or farm in that area could be appointed to the board. So they could design that GSA to fit their needs. So you had to have your comment done by December 19, 2020. I think, no, December 2019 or 2018. You had to have your comments done. December 2018, you had to have your comments done. So you had 2 years to come up with your GSP, which is your plan. So it gave every farmer that farmed in every GSA an opportunity to tell them how their farm operated under that area. So if I was going to write a comment to my GSA, I would say, you know, I have access to surface water. I still want to be able to pump my groundwater to a certain extent, and I will state that. If I live, say, 20 degrees, if I live where 20 degrees live, I would say I have no access to surface water. I need someone to help supplement my surface water so I can pump my groundwater out of the ground. Well, not everybody participated in that comment period. So the GSP was all done by December 31st, 2018, and then now the GSAs had to come up with a plan to present it to the state of California, what they had to do this summer. This is where Kings County was out of compliance because not all 5 GSAs agreed on one language. So it was a kind of a missed opportunity if you didn't put a comment in. I did a comment, and I had 20 farmers sign mine in my area. And I talked about, I didn't want to lose my groundwater access. I'm in a good groundwater basin, and I didn't want to lose access to my groundwater to somebody else in another basin because I preserved it over the years by using my surface water or having surface water to offset my groundwater pumping. It doesn't give someone else a right because they don't have it. And when I went to turn my comments in, Bonneville stopped me and says, wish you wouldn't do that. I said, well, let's do it. And then Dennis Mills says, you shitting me. You really turning this in? I said, yeah, I've got to represent my area. And I said, why do you have an opinion anyway? I'm allowed to have my opinion. So it got off on a rough note, but I'm glad I did it. And they have to design their plan due to our comments that we made in our community. The Greater Korea GSA is kind of like a circle, and it goes into Kings County. And there's Tulare sub-basin GSA is in the middle. It's like a wheel. So it's in the middle. They have surface water, but the Greater Korea doesn't have any surface water. So these poor guys have to pay for water up to $1,000 an acre foot to pump water out of the ground. Well, the guys in the middle that have access to surface water don't have to pay anything. Tulare County, in their GSAs, they have to pay, in the whole county, they have to pay $264 an acre to go towards GSAs to help fund, you know, more canals or more storage or something. I don't know how money's going to solve it, but it takes money out of farmer pockets. Like this year, there's no extra money for anybody. So yeah, everybody that lives, I live in Mid-King GSA, so I was able to comment in that area. South Fork King GSA, I was on the board for that one. But everyone has their own unique style of what they need to have come to the GSA. And I think in the South Fork King, they've already done a 218 election and assessed property to $8 or $10 an acre to help fund their GSA. So yeah, everybody has a say in it.
So just to be clear, do you know what GSA the city of Hanford is part of?
Mid-Kings.
And did the city of
Well,
Hanford...
Mid-Kings, and it may be part out towards Costco. I don't know how far the Greater Korea comes in, but it's out in that area.
Did the city of Hanford have input on that GSA and what happened with
Diane
that?
Sharp is on the Mid-Kings GSA board.
Okay. All right, that answers my question.
South Fork Kings GSA is Joe Neves is on that one, and also Nathan Olson from the city of Lemoore. Corcoran is El Rico and Southwest GSA. I don't think anybody in the city is on that at all. But El Rico GSA meeting is tomorrow, and Southwest GSA was on Friday. So we tried to attend all those when it was being formed. I went to quite a few. So I went to the Southwest GSA meeting in Fresno. It was at, excuse me, Provost of Pritchard. So I go into this meeting. I got Vidovich's guy, I got Boswell's guy, and I got Wonderful's guy. And I got two people on the phone. So I walk in there, and Vidovich's guy I know. I'm not saying any names anyways. I'm saying Vidovich's guy, but anyway. I'm sitting there, he's eating pistachio, they look at me, just smiling, shaking his head. And the guy from Wonderful said, well, I guess we have a full board today. We'll go ahead and start with the message. We'll start with you. Points at me. I'm like, well, I'm Doug Verboon, King County Board of Supervisor. The two people on the phone hung up. They couldn't have a meeting. So Dennis Tristo from Model says, man, you got to come to all these meetings. Because they didn't want to talk in front of me. And then later I was told that I was lucky to be allowed to be at the meeting. These are public meetings, and they're telling me I shouldn't even be there. And all I will do is try to learn how it works. Wow. I don't try to copy anybody. So when it comes to water, they don't want us to be involved. Well, another thing just happened, so, excuse me, Paul Gosman, which is DWR guy for our area, we had a conference call with him about 3 weeks ago, he and Supervisor Peterson, and talked about our authority over the GSAs. And he explained to us, no, you're in charge of the GSAs. You allow them to come up with their own plan. But then you're the backstop. The GSAs didn't believe that. They think they're in control. They're not in control. And it's too bad. I don't want to be in control of ours. But here we are. So I talked to them also. I said, how do you bridge that gap? County's government has never been involved in local water. You know, we've had water managers, irrigation districts, all those, they've been in charge of the water the whole time. And now they're not going to be in charge. And so there's going to be a gap that has to be separate. It has to come together with that. And we're trying to do our best not to infringe on anybody's rights. But at the same time, we have to get some rules in place so we have something to work with. Because if I'm gone tomorrow, my staff will know what to do if nothing's right. It'll just disappear. And our ordinance should have been done back in the 70s, like everybody else's.
I'm going to pass the mic around, but just let me get I got two more questions. Is there legal precedence for the ordinance already that other counties have done and they've gone through litigation?
Yeah, the Shasta County ordinance is embedded in the law.
Okay.
They were challenged and they won, so that's why we followed that one. Because no GSA, no export ordinance that have been designed since GSAs have been enacted. So it's kind of important that well, thank you. Is that okay? So it's you know it's uncharted territory right now. We're just doing our best to fine tune it and have some kind of control because we've lost control right now.
And my last question is, do you, and you may or may not speak on it, but do you know why Fagundes and Neves voted against it?
No.
That's what I figured you'd say.
Well, I wish I could tell you. I knew that Neves was a difficult part. So when I started this process the third time, it's been about a year and a half ago. And I started working with a couple of the water managers that I knew personally that went around and talked to local farmers outside the area that could be impacted by this to get them to understand. And they all said, you know, we support it, but we're not going to stand up to say we support it. And I worked with Neves to get the language in there. And I knew he was my hardest point. Because in 2011, I told him what I wanted to do. And he said, you can't do that. So I met a large West Side grower at Starbucks anymore. And he told me I better get a bodyguard if I did what I'm doing. I said, well, I mean, I'm just here to protect the future. You know, and if you sell water out of county, then you've got to be stopped. And that guy was in Joe Neves' district. So I think Joe liked confrontation. And so I respect him. He should be able to do whatever he wants to do. It'd be nice to have an explanation, but it passed, so it was off the hook. He don't have to defend it. He don't have to support it. He just does his own thing. But he's the one that got the 10 miles there. And I'm like, I only want 2 miles. And so we can change that as time goes on. We'll see what works and what doesn't work, and we can change it.
I have one quick follow-up question. If you knew he
Is this the Larry Ferrer meeting?
if you knew he wasn't going to support it, why'd you give him the whole 10 miles?
I didn't know he would. He supported it at first, and he can't say that word. He pulled out. Yeah.
I'm going to take his mic. Jeff, his mic will tell my. All right, I'm going to open it up for questions. If you're good for some questions.
Yeah, we have one right here. Ma'am?
Yep. Here you go, Kimber.
Two questions, Doug. Okay, one, you mentioned Diane Sharp. Did she take and write a statement to help support the water for the city of Hanford, or did she not?
I don't know. I don't know what she supported or not supported.
Okay, I mean, did she turn in a statement at all?
No.
She did
No.
not turn in
And
a
so I was careful. So legally, by the Brown Act, I can only talk to one person. I dedicated my time to Joe Ness. I didn't talk to Supervisor Peterson. I knew where he was coming from. I didn't talk to Supervisor Valley because I didn't know where he was going. I assume if I had Supervisor Neves on board, it'd be a no-brainer. I was really surprised at the comments Supervisor Valley made at the last meeting. I was very impressed with what he had to say. But when it comes to Diane Sharp, no, I don't know. I believe she thinks like I do. She seems to understand it, but I have not talked to her about it.
But whenever you take and say that you wrote out a comment,
Hold up the mic, Kimber.
when you wrote out a comment, your comment was based on your opinion, not necessarily the county supervisors.
Correct.
So my thought is she could have written out a comment based on her opinion on what was best for Hanford, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so she could have done that. My next question is, you mentioned the wonderful, the water going down to, I think you said Pixley, okay?
It
And
starts.
you said,
It starts there.
but
So
okay.
that's not wonderful. That John Vidovich, and it's a lawsuit. He owned 928 acres that he was bought the ground near Terabella, Pixley, just to pump water off that ground. It leaves that area, goes to Angela Water District. There's not a direct connection, so he has to put the water in Angela Water District, get the water to somebody else to go back into the water district, to go Utica, to go into this pump, to go up to Dudley Ridge. And in John's words, he's not taking water out of the county. He's just taking water from crappy area and putting it on the primo area, which is Dudley Ridge, which is high performing ground as well as no water.
And then once he gets the water to Dudley, is he making?
We lose control of it.
Right, okay.
Yeah. You can't even drive out there without someone. You'd be amazed. I got pictures, so we drive out there, and there'll be 3 canals going in one direction. And you don't know where they started. They didn't start 3 miles down the road. They just come out of the ground. And we found water going in canals and leaving the county, and they don't like you looking out there.
You mentioned wonderful. Okay, I know I'm familiar with Palm Wonderful, and I know that Wonderful also grows pistachios and probably other nuts that I'm not aware of. But you said that Wonderful is one of the people that is one of the 3 main players in the
It's the
game.
money.
Okay, who
He owns
person
Kirk County
that
Water
owns
Bank.
Wonderful? Is there a person that owns Wonderful?
Stuart
or is
Reddick.
it, huh?
Stuart Reddick.
Okay, that's the resident.
And he's great for the industry. I mean, so a friend of mine just passed away a couple years ago. Remember the guy from Aerofan that had the one short arm? Randy or whatever. Anyway, he had sold Wonderful 88 sprayers in his lifetime. 88 sprayers takes 88 tractors and about 160 people. That's one salesman, one sale. So he's good for the industry. But he's bad for the future because he's doing all he can to keep his ground alive while we all pay the price for him coming taking our ground water out of our ground. He's only doing it because they cut the water off through the delta. It's just out of survival. But we got to survive too. So we have to put something in there like a chess game. We have to put something in place to stop it. He doesn't directly come in here and take water out of our ground. It's put in a position for him to take it. And there's other people involved in that too.
Doug, I want to say thank you for a whole lot of people and everything for doing what you can.
If I turn up dead, there's some names I might drop. You guys.
Huh?
You're welcome. Thank you.
My question is, when I was on the grand jury a few years ago, we looked into this water stuff a little bit also.
Yeah, you got to turn the paper in. And it was told to the Board of Supervisors in 2010, you better do something about it. And no one did anything.
I know. What can you do? But anyway, the 5 GSAs, okay, have they ever come to an agreement yet on what to do in our area?
Friday. They did Friday.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Southwest King GSA was the one that was fighting against El Rico GSA about not allowing El Rico to pump water out of the ground and store in shallow ponds. And so they rescinded that on Friday, which makes us incompliant today. So that will keep DWR out of our county. I don't know what Rico's gonna do tomorrow, but they're having a meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I'm gonna go to that one.
Okay. All right, cool.
Can you report to the powers that be and let them know what you find out from that meeting tomorrow?
Yep,
They
I
can
could,
make a
if I
report to
remember.
us.
If it's good, if it's worth repeating. So, yeah,
Even if it's not good, because even if it's not good, at least then we will know.
well, I think with our groundwater export ordinance, it got people's attention that we're serious. And they're upset. But end of the day, we gotta protect our county. I mean, one thing that Boswell told me was, and I didn't write this to target Boswell or bidders. This is just more of a neutral blanket ordinance to get our staff to be on the lookout for any groundwater leaving our area. I'm not targeting anybody. Boswell's been great for our community. They put a lot of money in here. Vidovich, he owns a lot of ground. He pays a lot of taxes. He'll buy a farmer out that's not doing good to help him out, and he kept the prices up. So nothing against him. And I took him to DWR in Sacramento probably 5 years ago. He told me, "You got to get this done, Doug. You got to get this done." He had not called me and told me that I made a mistake, but other people have. Well, they told other people, but no one's called me directly.
Any more questions?
So what's next?
Christmas.
Are you guys equipped to fight these guys in court? Because obviously litigation's coming.
We're prepared. It's already law. It's already been proven. The ordinance is in place, so
Is there a motion
there's
filed already?
there's already a statute in place.
Have they filed any motions?
No,
Are they
no,
doing
no, no.
anything, or they just
No.
wait?
Had done nothing. Just idle threats. So Rusty Robinson, I had him at some of the meetings with me early on, so he understood what's going on. I didn't know if we could get this passed this year or another year, and I was uncertain if Joe was going to, make it through the election, and we didn't know. So I had Rusty sit in, and he's a salesman, selling furniture. He's very sharp, very intelligent, and so he understood. And he has a different perspective on why it's a mess. It is because same as I do, we're being robbed all the time. People being put in positions right now to take our water away. His comment to me was, I went out to Western Water District, and I'm like, man, how come we got such a problem? But you guys are all conservatives, and how come you guys don't get along? And they all said to him, we're not conservative, we're not Republican. We're here to get the water, take the water. So it opened his eyes too. And so it's good to have a fresh set of eyes, someone that's not involved in it. For myself, I work in the fields. I understand the importance of water. But for him, he understands the importance of water as well, because the people that survive in our community spend money at his store and spend money in everybody else's store. So it's important that he's on board. I'm glad I had him involved. Really helped out.
So how do you get, so this just kind of seems like a farmer's issue. It's not, but it just seems like that's all it's talking is the farmers.
Well,
So
really,
how do you make
no
this?
farmers are talking right now. I had all my
Most of
buddies.
the GSAs and the water districts are talking.
They're not
but-
farmers.
But how do you get,
GSA
how do
and
you get a
water.
little bit more support is what I'm asking. Not just from your farmers, obviously, I'm not a farmer. So how do you make this more of a public issue?
It's a tough issue. This is tough. So there was a large farmer down in corporate that supports this. And he was at the meeting, he refused to say anything, because he has to live in a community where the other farmers that are breaking the law live. And no one wants to be that guy.
Well, I know farmers, and they don't care. They just want to get to the end of the road.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about the farmers, I'm worried about my water. Like,
Yeah. No,
water coming out of my faucets. at my
I've had a
house.
lot of support from farmers. But the bad guys, I'm not getting so much support, but that's okay. I made my choice. It goes into effect December 29th, and we're good to go. I think the more we talk about it, the better it's going to be. I talked about, I was down in Cincinnati at a conference, and I talked about the same thing what I was doing then. And the whole state of California cheered me on for what I'm doing. We had, Michael Jackson was here. We had the governor's office here probably about 9 years ago. And I pulled him aside, and I was in a meeting down at corporate. And one of Boswell's guys looked over to Frank Donald, and says, what the hell is Doug talking to that guy for? And he said, he's probably talking about you. And I said, yeah, I was talking about him. I told him, I asked these guys in the governor's office, I said, how do you help us when you guys cut our water off? Our guys sell the groundwater out here. And he said, Doug, it's your responsibility. You've got to handle this. We can't come in the community and take care of it for you. You have to get this done. So the governor's office is watching us. Now I got the governor also on my side, which I'm kind of leery about because I don't trust anything he does. But at the same time, we're still in control of guiding this ordinance to fit our community. So, and it's been depleted. You know, like you said, the farmers run the GSAs. Farmers don't run the GSAs. The water people run the GSAs. And we need some more input. It's just like all my friends are going to show up on Tuesday. No one showed up. Like, oh yeah, you got this. No big deal. Thanks. I'm like, yeah, but you know, we're all paying the price. You know, if the county has to enact $264 an acre like the did, we didn't do our job. I mean, I don't think farmers can afford $260 an acre right now. Can they?
No.
It's bad. So we got to protect our rights at all costs. But yeah, anything we can do, keep the conversation going. I think we'll be okay. You know, I'm against government coming in and taking away personal property rights. That's why there's language in our ordinance that stipulates that we only take care of the water below our feet, not a surface water. Surface water can be traded and moved around, and you have to be able to do that. I don't want to be touching someone's personal property rights. I don't want the government coming here and telling me what I can and can't do. And you can still use the water below your feet. You just can't sell it outside the county. That's the only restriction we got. And I don't think that's a bad restriction. So I think the argument should be just real minimal, and you know, I don't want to blame anybody. You know, a lot of these guys are selling their surface water or groundwater, selling their groundwater because they're trying to survive, and it's very profitable. I could tell you more stories, but I really don't want to start naming names. But yeah, I've had a friend of mine that got offered. He said, "Hey man, very lucrative. I wish you'd take your water and put it in my canal. We can make you lots of money." I got offered $2,000 an acre foot for my surface water. If I took that offer, I take the water out to damage. I pay a small penalty in my irrigation district. I make about $500,000 to $700,000 a year going to leave my house. Now, I would love to do that, but it's against my morals. And I said, that goes against my morals, but someday my morals are going to run out of money. I'll be giving you a call. So, you know, the temptation is there if you have surface water, it can be moved around, and you can use surface water to put back in the ground. We've been taking it out for years. Yes, sir.
Hold on, Richard. Let me follow up your mind.
I like what Jimmy brought this up last week. I think what he's trying to say is, can we get more cities involved in this? I remember when Avenue was having a water issue. Remember the whole town, everybody got behind
Yeah,
it.
and that's completely different water.
I'm talking about water. Like the well right here in Stone, it's not far from your house and my house, right over by the railroad tracks. They're already to redo that well again. This water is starting to affect our community.
That well gave out, not because it's out of water, because it started pumping. It broke. So.
Well, anyway, we're going to have water issues all around. I mean, Hanford, anywhere in Keys County, we're going to have all these water issues eventually, right? I think Nathan said what Memorial has 100 years. I don't know what Hanford has. But at the current rate, those years are going to shorten,
With
right?
Sigma, we should be okay. We just got to stop the bleeding.
Okay. But I think if we get the cities behind it, City Hanford behind you, behind this ordinance, we'd be better off because it's all about optics, right? The more optics you have on it, the more public input you have on it, the more public outcry, we can make a difference. At least that's what I assume we can.
Yeah, so the city of Hanford is a different aquifer than we have, and they follow the rules. They already monitor their water they take out, and they also replace it with the water from Cross Creek. And if you go down 198 on the right side of the road, those basins out there, that's City of Hanford recharge basins. But the problem with that is
They don't get no water.
they raised Kuya Lake up 5 feet, and now they don't get no flood water. So, you know,
Okay.
I would like to have City of Hanford. The City of Lemoore supports me. City of Hanford has not said anything yet. Of course, they were going through a big change. We got Travis here, new board. You know, it'll come a time.
My second one, which
Corcoran supports me. They had a big article in the paper last week, and I think I was told off record that they support me.
Next, can you explain what authority and power that the Keys County Board of Supervisors have? What's within their power? A lot of guys were asking about this question. What gives you the Keys County Board of Supervisors power to bring an ordinance up like this on water?
Well, that's our job. We make policy. So I compare it to the marijuana ordinance we did. You know, the sheriff couldn't arrest anybody or remove plants if there wasn't an ordinance in place. So what we did was put an ordinance in place, which gives our staff the opportunity to look into, further investigate what's going on. Without that, they can't even look into it. You come in, you get a well permit, or we go out and investigate your well. Where's this water going? You got to tell us. We'll find out where it's going. If it's not going where you say it is, we have the right to shut you down.
And that was my next question. I had people asking, how are they going to know? How are they going to find out? Do they have an investigation committee? Who's looking at this? Who's chasing to find out where this water is going?
This is the difficult part. So we're working on that. We don't. I'm not going to go out myself and do it. But we'll have laws written, and this is where we're going to have them. We have to have 5-member board come up with how we're going to handle this from here on out. And there's only certain things we can do for punishment wise, and the state already has guidelines for how much you can punish someone when you caught doing an illegal activity. Not that much. The people that we're dealing with will pay the fine and keep doing what they want to do. So we got to figure out a way to get them to stop completely and work with us. So, you know, one thing is, you know, people talk about Vidovich. He was on TV saying, well, there's no law to stop me. Why can't I do it? And he told me, well, you put a law on, I'll have to stop. That's what he said. Whether he does or not, I don't know. But we can investigate at that time, our staff can. We can have code enforcement, and you know, we'll do what we can. Just like building a house, you know, I got caught for building a room outside with no permit. They catch you. So you gotta be careful. I think that the farming in our area is going to change dramatically over the next 5 years. You know, the commodity prices are going to tank. The lack of water. Western Water District bought out 120,000 acres in their district alone to not to be farmed again. There'll be ground in our area that won't be farmed ever again unless you have surface water. Yet it's natural attrition, and with Sigma, you know, even though we have farmed less ground today than we did in 1968, we produce more commodities. So we'll fine tune it. More boutique farm, you farm every inch of your property. You know, maybe not as many triple crops. You know, some of the dairymen farm triple crop, that hurts a lot. The Great Aquia, they allow you 1.6 or 2.6 acre feet to farm with, which you can grow a corn crop. But you can't grow a corn crop and a wheat crop and a corn crop. You can do one and not have to pay a penalty. So there's ways you can do it. You may take more acres and farm it all and let your ground sit a little bit longer, maybe sit for 4 or 5 months. I could have planted wheat on my ground this year, but I had to pull a well, so I just, you know, I left the ground neutral until I get my well fixed. So it's just part of doing business. It's just that your margins are real minimal right now. Okay, any more questions?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
There's 5 people in this room that I'm aware of that either are realtors or have family members that are realtors, okay? And there's 5 people in this room that I know of that have their real estate license or have a family member that is a realtor, okay? What a lot of the public doesn't think about is they think of this as being a farmer issue. And they don't understand that it's actually a county, Central Valley, statewide issue, okay? Because with our water that we have here, it's not just used for the farmers. We have to have it for housing or for people and everything to live here. We have the military base just west of us, and we have all the prisons around here. We have to take and have housing for the people that live in those houses. We have to have water for them to be able to take in and survive with. So I feel like everybody in the county needs to get behind you guys and help support you guys so that what you're doing, you have our input and have our help. Yeah. And that we are taking and all embracing what you're trying to do. Because it's not just a farmer issue. It's not just a county supervisor issue. It's an everybody issue. Because if we don't have water for the housing out of the base, we lose a lot of our base. You know what I'm saying? It could take and cut down the expansion of the base. We have all the prisons around here.
Yeah, I think we bought water for the base out of a contract we did. It's $3,000 an acre foot so they can have water out there. I mean, it's expensive. Kettle City, same thing. We pay $2,000 an acre foot, $2,500 an acre foot. because the government said we couldn't drill another well. So we put in a $13 million water filtration system that took us 10 years to do. And once we get it up and running, they got zero allocation, zero amount of water. They said we need to drill a well. Well, you wouldn't let us drill a well 12 years ago. Now we have to drill a well. So it's a mess. Well, now you can blend it. Well, the government likes to waste a lot of money. But yeah, I hear you. The communities survive on groundwater.
People need to stop thinking of it being just a farmer issue. And I know that's not what Jeremy was trying to say. I know that he was taking and making a point that that's how the public typically looks at it. We all need
If
to
the
take
voting
a fight for
public,
water.
supports us, we could do whatever we want to do. It's a problem with the state of California, the voting area that we have. We represent 4% of the votes. So we're outnumbered all the way. So we belong into the San Joaquin Valley Conference. We just had our conference in October at 9 counties, and we try to work together as a team so our vote can be a little wider.
Do we as a public here locally that are starting to get it, do we need to go to more of those meetings in other areas to take and be there to support you and support them so that other people get it?
Yeah, no, any support we get, we take.
Okay.
But I mean, we got this, we're doing it now. All we gotta do is fine tune it to fit our area. I mean, I don't wanna shut anybody out farming, but if they're selling water out of county, then they gotta be dealt with. So, and it hurts all of us, because that water will never get back. I always think if you take water, I farm, I pump water out of the ground. I don't use drip, I pump water out of the ground, I put it on top of my ground. So this year, I did 10 irrigations, and I think 5 of them, maybe 4.5, was surface water. So I really only pumped 4.5 irrigations out of the ground. So I did my part. I have a neighbor that had access to surface water and did not use surface water to offset his groundwater pumping. That has to stop. I got a neighbor that he's in the last chance area that doesn't even have access to the canal, and he pumps all the time. So we got to get that. They have to have access to the surface water, and they got to offset their groundwater pumping. That will help us all. But even 10 years ago, it was easier to just pump water out of the ground than it was to do surface water, because you got to call it in 24 hours in advance. It doesn't always get there in time. The canal goes dry in the middle of the night. You have all kinds of problems. So some of the farmers just said, let's pump out of the ground. No big deal. It's going to force us to utilize that surface water.
But, and I can talk about it if I don't need the mic. But Doug, if we do not have people like yourselves that have that, I'm not going to call you an old timer because I think I'm probably older than you. But if we do not have people that have that experience and know how to take and do it, if we just have younger farmers or people that are just learning, doing it, we need your expertise.
Most everybody gets it.
You know.
Most everybody gets it. It's not a big number. So, you live in a silo. You live where you live, and that's what you know. I only know a little more because I ventured out to see what was going on, and I didn't like what I saw. And my family's all from corporate, and my mother, she's in the 3rd chapter of the King of California, so it's means a lot to our community. My grandfather take me to Florida Lake Mama when it rained and tell me stories. My great grandfather's dairy is still out there, and he had to milk cows all the time, and the water came up into the dairy. So it means a lot to us. And I hate this. We talk about younger generations being a farmer. I consider myself a young farmer. I farmed by myself for 17 years now, and I look in the mirror and I don't feel young at all. It's not good. I think young farmers should be in their 20s. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think it's going to be the corporate farms coming here and taking over the younger generation. It's not going to happen. It'll be more of a boutique farm. Someone has 20 acres and they got a couple cows and they're selling fresh produce on the side of it a couple months a year. It's a shame. My great uncle had a combine. His wife would drive the truck with the combine and go to Creeks of Plains, all around the lake bottom. I started with a combine and a truck. I'd harvest wheat, barley, and corn in May and June, and corn in August, September. And I made extra money to survive with my 4 kids, and that doesn't exist for young generations today. People want to have a retirement, they want to have health insurance, and the government's pushing it. They talk about we've got to have your health insurance. Yeah, I had health insurance when I was younger, but I worked extra jobs to get it. When my daughter was born, I was 20 years old, and I had to have insurance. I had to figure it out that day, because when she was born, I had no insurance. And she had to go stay in the hospital. So I don't think the government should be there to support us all. That's why this ordinance is kind of scary, because I don't want the government to tell people what they can and can't do on their own property. But we have to do something here, and I felt I was the right person for that. Yes, sir.
Just want to echo Kimber's comments about the two prisons and the naval air station. You kind of wonder if Washington had known about just how bad the drought was here in California, would it really have, allowed the air base to expand.
Well, the air base has, we watch out over the air base because it's federal. So we have access to our exchange water. So we're able to purchase water and make sure they have water at all costs. It's expensive, they pay for us, but they go through us as a contractor to get that water for them. So, but the prisons, we don't do that.
But if we don't have water, then...
Well, that's another story, because Avenel gave up their allocation to allow the prison to come in. So they should have got extra allocation to have. I mean, it's the prisons, they should have got, someone should have got the water for them. But no, the community gave up their allocation of water so the prison could have water. And they run out every year.
Jim, you brought up the idea.
Now Jim is my dad's cousin.
That's right. I'm sorry, Dad. My bad.
No relation.
I've known forever. I don't know. The two basins you were talking about out off of Cross Creek, I live a half a mile from there. When I moved out there in '72, we had water in our canal that literally comes from that basin 365 days a year. This last year, we got water 2 days out of the year, and that basin almost stayed dry all year. And what I found out was they have to buy their water from either Pine Flat or Quia, and half the water going from Quia goes south. Is there some why we don't have water? And that water is supposed to come in Hanford.
That's all Quia water. And when they raised the dam 5 feet, it limited their excess flows. So below the dam flows and flood flows. We haven't had a flood in here. We're probably, I think, 12 years in a drought cycle. And 17 was a good year, but we're 100 years behind a 100-year flood. So 50 years behind a 100-year flood. So in 1954, there was a 100-year flood, which changed the direction of Cross Creek. So Cross Creek used to come out of Quia, and it would go south of Visaya to where it come around. It flooded so hard and so fast, it pushed timbers, redwood trees, down to about Burl's Drive-In and changed the flow of, I think, Mill Creek around to the north side of town. So it has the power to change all that. And then that was a law, they made a law in Tulare County that you had to put a fence around your property. So everybody had to come down and make the Mooney and get their timber to make their fence posts. And they had split fence posts from all the redwood trees that floated downtown, I say. So that could still happen, but we can't predict it and we can't count on that. So, I remember when the Cross Creek, the neighbors would fight because they put dams up who keeps the water. Or they had too much water, they wanted to go downstream. And the neighbors out there would fight because there was always a flow, always water in the creek.
I'm a double question. I not loud enough voice. I've been reading about the fact that our farmers are going to have to put in water meters.
You have, if you drill a new well, you have to have a meter on it now. Yeah. And that's
Only new wells?
only new wells, yeah.
Right now.
You're probably, well, that's our argument. So in my mind, I think everybody should have a meter on the well because I don't think we're the problem. I don't think we're wasting the water. I think the water's going somewhere else. So I think if everybody had a meter, they can prove that they're not using as much water as they say we are. They're doing the studies where they can do the satellite can tell you how much evaporation, how much water you use in your ground according to the crops. And I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out. That's what they're doing in Tulare County. I did have a meter and say, no, this is what I actually poured on the ground. This is what I actually used. And if I'm on drip, I did my part. If I'm flooded, I use a little bit more.
Don't they already have that in Kern County?
I don't know.
Don't they have those in Kern County, right? Joe, don't they have those in Kern County? Meters and all that comes? Kern County, we got farms we deal down there.
Yeah. Most farmers have meters on the well now, but it's not. There's no system that goes into. But there probably will be within 5 years. and it'd be monitored. Someone has to pay someone to go out there and check that meter, you know? No, I'm not.
They're gonna make you.
Hey, I don't mind you putting a meter on Mark's well, but don't put one on mine.
You talk about meters. My brother up in Chowchilla put a new well in. He had to put a new meter in. You know what the water people told him what to do? Well, just tell us how much water you're using.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? He just told me that last week.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question on subsidence. Is it a big problem in Kings County, and where in the county is worse?
So corporate and out by the Avenel cutoff, I know there's a big subsidence area out there before Avenel. There's not much out there. Peturgian has their little refuge place out there. That's a big area. It's been subsiding for years, and corporate has been settling for years. So I farm and I have a laser scraper. We've had laser scrapers since 1976. I can laser my ground every single year. It always falls to the south and always falls to the west. So my property, my neighbors, he would flood me out all the time. Now I'm flooding him out. And that's been the last 20 years. And it's just a natural settling in the ground. And I can blame it on groundwater or just, you know, way it goes. It's been that way my whole life.
All right, thank you.
And they have new ways to check it. You know, with the new technology with NASA, they can go right down to the NASA. It's like the weather forecaster. You know, now they're showing rain over, it's all green. You go outside, there's no rain. They can sense a drop. You know, before they can only sense, you know, it already had a quarter inch.
I read a study where it said that San Joaquin is about 2 inches a year in the San Joaquin Valley. I'm sure there's areas more than others, but that's something that.
There's a picture in one of the book, and it shows a guy holding a shovel up to a power pole where the water line was. My grandma's in the picture, and that was her friend Patel. Dad in the picture.
I've seen that picture.
He's the one that was in the boating accident. He killed his wife, his son, and another person were killed. When they unloaded the boat and bent the rudder, he took off and it rolled the boat over, broke everybody's neck, except for my grandmother and her best friend and him. So yeah, we've had water here before, just, you know, and it gets high, and now the wells are coming out of the ground. But, you know, we'll just deal with it. I'm not going to say it's climate change because, you know, if it was climate change, we'd still be frozen in time. Right?
Doug, is there any Keeley Lake anymore at all? Is there even a pond? Is there any
No,
water
nothing.
down?
No, there could be if it flooded. And so there's another deal going on right now. In 2017, we had lots of water, and they were going to flood Flurry Lake. They were going to flood it, and they were going to run the water into Flurry Lake. And Supervisor Nabs was on an emergency board or whatever. And I said, I don't mind them putting water in Flurry Lake. And I go, don't go down the Bobble Canal. Just go up the South Fork and the Clark Fork. Just get some water. If they don't want the water, just percolate it up in that area. So I went out there one day and checked on it. And so the Wood Brothers were trying to get the debris clear on the North Fork. They were sending all that water out the North Fork of King River. So the water.
Wood Brothers was?
Huh?
Wood Brothers was?
Yeah, they handle all the maintenance on the King River. So they're getting all the wood and stuff out, the water flowing north. Nothing was going south. Which should have went to fill Clark Fork and the South Fork Kingdom. Well, it went out to the North Fork. It got to Mendota Pools. It was taken out of Mendota Pools. Boswell's up there keeping the banks from blowing out. A bit of it got a hold of it. Took it down in an aqueduct and flowed to semi-tropic irrigation district. Now Kings River is being sued for 1 million acre feet because it proved it wasn't a fully allocated stream. So we got that going on too. So we got people at the Flurry Lake bottom not doing what they're supposed to do. So we're all going to pay. If we lose 1 million acre feet, that's all a pine flat flood water. If we lose that, that's not going to help us at all. So that loss is going on right now. It's been going on since 2018. So the people that are taking the groundwater out are people that are selling the surface water, are causing all this problem for all the little guys that can't afford to hire a lawyer to protect themselves. So it's a mess. Hopefully in time, it'll all come out. But hopefully we're still here and still in business.
Hey Doug, in regards to the Navy, with the exception of that supplemental water you're talking about, aren't they 100% Westlands?
They are, but they still have to have a contractor to get them water. So we're the exchange contractor that own the water. We have 4,000 acre feet of exchange contract water. So they have to maneuver through us to get the water.
There's no wells there, because they're drinking water.
No, it's not, it's all surface water. So we bought it from a hobby Mojave bought all the water back in 2010 from a couple of large growers up to like $160 million. So they have paper water, and so we're able to get water from them now. It's all about money. You know?
And I believe that Westland is 100% metered at this point, or very close to not.
Yeah, what's left of them. Yeah. Yeah, Westland's great how they can maneuver water around and underground and track it. And they've stayed alive this long by using, they have some big wells out there that supplement their surface water that they lost to keep the ground viable. I did a story with a group from New York came out here. I took them out there and had them cut off, and there's an onion field they were harvesting. And I said, if we lose water, where are you getting onions at? Man, there's so, we picked up onions on the ground and took pictures, and that 640 acres of onions, and their truck was nonstop leaving. I said, those trucks are going clear to New York from here right now. It'll be nonstop trucks on Interstate 80 and Interstate 40 across the United States from this one field. Right? We lose water, you can't replace that in any other country. So we got to protect that. And I think the environmentalists have got a hand on it. So the cities get together and vote these idiots out of office, we'll have a better chance.
I think that's it for the questions. Doug, I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate you answering our questions and giving us a little education. We don't always see eye to eye, but I think this is a good move for.
Well, I'm not in a position to make friends.
Sure.
So,
All right, thank you.
I got one. Thanks.
Real quick, if you signed up to help put wreaths out for Wreaths Across America, you should have got a text message from Missy Chavez and assigned a cemetery to help put wreaths out. If you weren't able to sign up but you're still interested, let me know, or show up to one of the 3 cemeteries and put out wreaths for the veterans. It's an awesome occasion. It's awesome to volunteer and just be part of that. The ceremonies at the Grangeville Cemetery, so even if you didn't volunteer, go to the ceremony and just be part of it. It's pretty awesome. One other thing I want to announce is the board is going to do 3 college scholarships. We're going to put the rules out via Facebook and flyers. So basically, we're going to ask for some type of constitutional where I'm looking for essay, right, based upon the Constitution. It'll have some stipulations, but any high school seniors that are going to college next year, we would like to give some money away for college scholarships. So we'll put the information out there, but let your seniors know so they can get some money.
Okay, if I could add one more thing.
Go ahead, Doug.
On the veterans. So keep on your radar in March. We have $1 million we put into a pot. We got Nike Rail for a memorial down in Corcoran. It's going to be a memorial throughout, to be recognized throughout the state of California. 5 bracts of the military. Corcoran donated a couple acres, well, not a couple acres, but an area of their park. And we have 5 figures being made right now in Nashville. And it's going to be awesome. And they're going to be here in March. So Supervisor Valley's in charge of that. And that's going to be something we all need to be part of.
If you let us know, we'll try to get some people out there and definitely spread the word.
We're going to try to follow them from Nashville to here. Valley said, well, can I get to Vegas from Nashville? I said, no, man, it's out of the way. But it's going to be a big deal. We settled a high-speed rail lawsuit. I took Supervisor Valley out to the country club to be there with me. And he's like, hey, we got to ask for something. I said, no, I want to make sure we get the bridges 40 feet wide and we get everybody's impacted gets taken care of. I said, what are we going to ask for? Well, can I ask for something? I said, go ahead. I want $1 million for my veteran memorial. I'm like, what the hell? That don't help nobody. What the hell? Get the hell out of my office. But now looking back, it was a great deal, and I commend him for doing that because this veteran memorial is going to be awesome.
That's awesome.
I saw the makeup of it, and you can look. You see it from the side, you can see the statue of the person, or you look right through it, and you can see the next one behind it.
Awesome.
Where is that? Where is it?
Right as you enter Corcoran off of 43, you cross the railroad tracks right there, you'll see it right there. So it can be.
You said there's 5 statues?
Yeah.
Who are they of?
It's the 5 branches of the military.
Oh.
Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, and then Coast Guard.
Gary?
What time is the ceremony on Saturday?
I think we posted it, but I believe it's 11 o'clock, but I'll repost it.
Ceremony's at 11.
It's at 11.
11, and then they start putting the wreaths out.
At
before
8:30.
that. Oh.
You sure?
Put the lease on before it goes.
Okay, I'll find out for sure. But we should have posted it on the Facebook page. Also, if you went to last week's city council meeting, thank you. We had a pretty good showing there. There's another study session next week, right?
Yes, the next study session is on the 20th, yes. And there will be 3 scenarios brought back to the council for review.
I will say, thanking the current city council for actually putting in a lot of thought and taking input for some alternatives. Maybe, I think, at least weigh out their options. There are some, if you didn't go to the city council, there are some issues with the current configurations that have to be addressed, so something has to be done. So something's going to be done, has to be. So just let's hear out the study session, see what the new alternatives are, and see how it goes from there. But it's interesting. They're definitely taking input. If you don't speak up, no one knows what you want, guys. Right?
Next Tuesday, 4 o'clock.
Next Tuesday, 4 o'clock. All right. We're good with the live. Thanks, Greg.